Welcome back to Hot Rod Guy Garage. This is going to be another episode on the Turbo 306 cylinder build in the 1970 Torino. So follow along with me through the intro and I'll be back. So guys, it's been a busy week at the shop and I've not got a lot done on the 70 Torino, but I have got the intake manifold on it and the exhaust manifolds. So at this point we're ready to put some small things on like the thermostat housing. So I need to get it cleaned up and painted, and then we can move on to the turbo fabrication. So stick with me and I'll be back. So got our new thermostat housing here and our new 160 degree thermostat. So you get that on there. I gotta get it painted, but like I said, I got the intake manifold on it and stuff. And yes, I did paint the intake. Cast aluminum stuff looks horrible over a little bit of time. So by painting it with a little cast blast, it made it even, especially after all the port work that I had to do in the plenum here for it to match this Moroso spacer. But I did get the exhaust manifolds on there too. And after I get the thermostat housing on, we need to move on to start building pipe. Get that pipe from over here to over here, while leaving room for stuff like our starter cables and our transmission cooler lines. So let's see how far we get today, and we'll go from there. Look at that thermostat housing on there. Not real happy with kind of the fit around that heater hose port right there, but should be able to still get a hose on it. May have to trim that bracket just a little bit more, and I added a little idler pulley right here to get a little better belt wrap on this alternator and our our water pump right here. So still gotta get a belt for that, but I guess let's move on to our pipes. See if we can at least get it, under here. I need to be able to get this hot side off in one piece, so that'll be a challenge, but it should be able to be done. So let's get started on that. Alright, so our biggest challenge is definitely going to be this pipe to shock tower clearance right here. So we're not going to notch the tower, so we're going to have to come off this manifold probably right here on the other side of its little retainer notch right there, and I'm going to cut that off, and I'm going to get one of my new 90 degree mandrel bends, and I'm going to cut it off, and we'll see where we end up. And alright, I got a bend here, and it looks like there's no room here, but we're not sitting all the way on the flange yet either. But when you pull it up, I've got about 1/4 of an inch of clearance there. And the pipe is angled exactly where I want it to go, which is under the front sub of this oil pan. So I'm going to go out here now, and we're going to trim this pipe off. I've got another bend all ready to make this flat across. And then we can start on our secondary pipe, because they're going to tie in on the other side of the motor. And alright, I got my back pipe down here started. Fortunately, it looks like the bend coming off of it's going to be good. Once it's pulled up, it'll clear that motor mount. Looks like I can come off with a 90 right here and come down the back side of this other pipe. So let's get started with that, and maybe we can get it run under the pan like the other one under there. I am going to have to straighten that one up where it comes through, so this pipe can come down and come on the outside of it, because there's not going to be room on the inside. But that's the plan so far. We're going 90 here. We're going to come down even with this pipe, and we're going to follow this pipe to the other side over there. Once we get to the other side, we start worrying about our wastegates and other stuff at that point. So guys, pretty much I'm just working with the factory flanges, and I'm trying to put the pipe through an open spot with the most ground clearance as I can, because I will be lowering the 70 once all this motor stuff's done and all the weight's on the front end, because I've never really been happy with it sitting at a little above stock height as it has the whole time I've had it. So the moral of the story is it's going to get more low too, along with some other changes in the future, but I'm planning my turbo kit and my ground clearances around that. And that's something you got to keep in mind when you build a turbo setup, is you got to make sure you got good clearance around things, guys, because this stuff gets mega hot and you'll burn wires, you'll burn paint if you don't have at least a quarter to a half inch of clearance there. And all this pipe will be heat wrapped, but at this point we're in the fabrication stages, so nothing's really going to be pretty until the end. So follow along with me. I'm going to get that 90 cut for that pipe. I'm going to mock it up in the car and mark my position of my bend. That way I can pull it off and weld it up over here on the floor. And we can start going from there. Now, it's almost impossible for me to cut these pipes and show you welding it together. But remember I said I was going to mark this pipe, and you can see my blue mark there. And I got my blue mark here. I know these pipes line up together. So from here, what I do, I spot weld these pipes at a few places. Then I'll go back to the car and test fit it. And if everything looks good, I come back and weld it up. Just like that, just a couple of tacks on opposing sides, and that'll let me mock this pipe back up. So back to the car. So I'm back, and we got good clearance. So I'm going to go ahead and weld this pipe up so it can be cooling off. So, while not the most beautiful, I did have a wheel on my chop saw out there explode, and that's what it done to the outside of the pipe. So, not a real good flush cut here, so I had a little bit of a gap to fill up on one side, but that was out of my control. And you can build this all out of stainless and TIG weld it up, make it look beautiful. But when you're going to pipe wrap a pipe, I like to use mild steel mandrel bends, because even stainless isn't going to last forever, guys, and it cracks a lot more easy than the mild steel does. So I'm going to have to replace it, I'm going to replace it with cheaper stuff. So we'll let that pipe cool off a few. We'll mock it back up again for a third time. That's the big thing with this. You're going to be taking this stuff on and off a bunch of times. So once that cools off, we'll get it stuck back on here. We'll see what we got. Well, in order to get my turbo at the height I want it, I'm going to have to make me some little stands off this side pipe. Then I can connect it to my Y. And then we can run this other side up into the Y pipe. But that's the plan so far. Let's just see where we get. And a lot of you probably wondering, why the big old Y pipe? Well, you need to get both them pipes into one to go into the turbo. And these style Y pipes are about the smoothest way you can do that. There is merge collectors, merge flanges for turbo. Not a real big fan of them because they really nick down right there. So when I can, I like to use something like this. And that's what we're going to do. So at this point, I've got one side pipe connected to the Y. I've stuck my turbo up on top of it to check my hood clearance, and I kind of adjusted the height as I needed there. So at this point, I need to get that other pipe spotted in there, tacked all up, and connected in, and then I can start planning on my wastegate placement, which is going to be super important on a setup like this, and not something to be overlooked, because if your wastegate placement isn't correct, you will have boost creep and over boosting issues. So we'll get into that to it a little bit later, but let's get this pipe run from the other one up to the Y, and then we start looking at how the turbo fits, how we're going to brace it, and those wastegates. Alright, I got my second pipe cut and fitted there. So now I just got to cut a pipe with a 30-degree angle on the end of it there. We should line right up to that. And then we get on to the more fun stuff. And guys, I can't cover everything in doing this in this video, or this video would be like 3 hours long. So I'm trying to kind of hit the highs as I go. A lot of people like to measure angles and stuff, and I don't. I pretty much eyeball everything and go from there. And it generally works well for me. I'm pretty good at matching up angles by visuals. Some people may not be, and in that case, I highly encourage you to try to measure your angles where you can get a better fitting cut. You don't want to be welding up big old gaps in this stuff. So you want your pipes to fit tight to each other. So let me get on to cutting that pipe. That's going to go in that between that 90-degree piece and our other secondary pipe that runs from the second manifold. and I'll be back. And it's a little while later, and I had to put the radiator in it, and I've got the turbo stuck up about where I want it. I may change the angle of it some, but I'll flip it around and show you a few things you need to check when doing something like this, especially if you're going to mount something up high. So, as you can see, I got my radiator set in there, and I was actually able to lower it a little bit with this motor since I don't have the mechanical fan. But you can see what kind of clearance here we're working with in the front. Now, I told y'all before from the get-go that a lot of this space that y'all thought was here was going to go away. So, as you can see with our intake, we're pretty close to the tower. You know, we're close front to back. And we're close pretty much on the hood line. So, what I like to do to try to mock a hood line and make sure I got clearance, I'll run a piece of tape from fender to fender. And then I'll put something approximately the same height as the center of the hood. So I set my turbo right there. I'm not really happy with it facing forward, even though it would make the downpipe nice and easy. It shoots straight for that hole right there. So my big things were I need to make sure I cleared this distributor, I cleared this dipstick tube, and our turbo oil drain is down there in an oil pan right there. We gotta go from there to there. But I don't have a lot of room for an air filter right here. So more than likely I'm going to cut my spot weld off this flange and turn this turbo towards this open area where I can get a filter on it just for road trip stuff. Unfortunately, it means I'll probably have to put a 45 off the turbo, at least 12 inches back, hopefully. Enough to clear all our plug wires and distributor cap and stuff. And really, I'm trying to decide what looks better at this point too, because, you know, I do car show stuff, so I think it might look better on an angle. I'm going to play with this here a few minutes, and then we'll come back. Like I said before, our pipe is not fully welded, but it is welded 99%, enough to hold, you know, the turbo weight. Anybody curious what that noise was? A little foam mount fell off, or at least the bottom of it. So that's nice. It looks like it broke. So hooray. So I'll be back here in a few. I'm going to get this turbo turned, and I'll see you here in a minute. So I cut that turbo flange back loose, moved it 30 degrees towards the outside over here, which opens up a lot of room for, say, an air filter or something like that. While also it points our exhaust straight at our cylinder head, we're going to have to come out of this turbo with like a 30-degree angle, and then about a 45, and we'll shoot straight down through that hole where we'll connect with the exhaust I had on the big block before, just on the driver's side. So it's time to start figuring out where we're going to put these wastegates, and I've got a pretty good idea. What I have here is two 44 millimeter gates. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come out of this Y right in line with the pipe, one on this side and one on the other side over here. That way our wastegates are in line with the exhaust flow on both sides, and that's what you want. There's going to be one over here and one over here. They're going to be like this, face forward, and we'll run our dump pipes down in between the strut rod and these pipes right here, straight down towards the ground. So I think our initial fabrication is over. So I need to start pulling this stuff back out, where I can get this Y pipe off, get it fully welded. And before I do that, I probably need to go ahead and make a brace for it. And I'm probably going to come off the fuel pump mount right there. On the CFI motor, it's blocked off, so we got two threaded holes there. And it'll be a pretty simple bracket to tie over here to this Y pipe. This will help support the weight of this turbo. So anytime you hang a big bunch of weight off a pipe like this, especially as long as this is, you definitely want to support it. It will help it keep it from cracking, It'll help it keeping from working bolts loose and all that good stuff. So I'm going to pull the radiator back out of this car, turbo back off of it. I'm going to see if I can't get this Y pop off in one piece. Hopefully it will. I don't see why it wouldn't. But I'm going to go ahead and make my brace, get it tied in, and I'll pull this off fully welded. Then I will mock it up one more time. And then we can blow the holes for the wastegate. And we should be ready to paint it and wrap it at that point. That probably won't happen today, but hopefully by the end of this video I'll at least get the Y pipe all welded up, and we can have this in here and mock back up once again. Well, got the hot side all welded up. Need to look around, see if I got a hole saw where I can put the holes in it for these wastegates. But look pretty good so far. So this is what our Y pipe looks like. So turned out pretty good. And got our wastegate ports on here. These are going to go on here just like this. One here and one here. The only other thing I got to do is once I get this back on the car, I got to put the turbo brace on it. And this needs to be painted and heat wrapped. And I've got our base for our turbo brace started right there. So just got to make it once I get it back on the car, because I'm going to weld it to the turbo flange itself or make it bolt through on the bottom. I've not made my mind up yet, but pretty much that's what it takes to build a hot side for a turbo setup, minus installing these wastegates and building dump tubes for them and our downpipe. So I hope somebody got something from this. Basically what you want to do, you don't want to run an oversized pipe from them manifolds. These have a 2-inch outlet, so a 2-inch pipe is appropriate. So I run a 2-inch pipe into a 2-inch to 3-inch merge straight to our T4 flange, and that should give us a good fast spooling hot side. Especially with the heat wrap, it's going to help keep all that heat inside the pipe and increase our spool time. But pretty much, guys, that's going to be it for this video. It's starting to get later in the day, and there's just no way I can get this back on the car today. So stay tuned for the next update video on this Turbo 300 6-cylinder build. Hopefully I'll already have the hot side done and back on the car at that point. So if you like this video, make sure you like it. Comment down below because it helps YouTube pick it up on the algorithm. And most importantly, if you're not subscribing and you're watching this video, hit that subscribe button because it does help the channel to grow. And as always, guys, I appreciate everybody that watches these videos, and I'll see you at the next one.